If you want to understand why the people of Okinawa have one of the lowest rates of dementia on the entire planet, do not look at their hospitals, do not look at their medications, look at what has been sitting quietly on their tables, morning after morning, for over 400 years. Here is what most people never hear. In the villages where I practiced medicine for nearly 4 decades, I watched men and women in their 90s hold full conversations, recall names of grandchildren, walk to the market alone, and live without a single day of cognitive confusion. Not because they were lucky, not because they had special genes, but because of something they ate almost every single day of their adult lives. A simple purple root vegetable that most of the world has completely overlooked. And here is the part that should stop you in your place. When researchers finally measured what this food does inside the brain, they found it was doing something that the most expensive Alzheimer's drugs in the world are still trying to replicate. For 38 years, I watched my patients live past 90, not because of medicine, but because of the way they lived. My name is Dr. Haruko Shimabukuro. I am a retired general physician from Okinawa Island, Japan, one of the 5 blue zones on Earth where people routinely live past 100. I spent 38 years caring for patients in a small clinic overlooking the East China Sea. And for most of those years, I kept noticing something that my medical textbooks could not explain. My patients who ate the traditional Okinawan diet, the ones who never abandoned the old ways, their minds stayed clear, sharp, present, even in their 80s and 90s. But the patients who shifted to a more modern diet, more bread, more sugar, more processed food, they were the ones who started forgetting. First small things, then larger things, then the people they loved. I sat with families during those conversations. I know what cognitive decline costs, not just the patient, the daughter who visits every day and is no longer recognized, the husband who cooks dinner for a wife who cannot remember his name. That is the human weight of what happens when the brain does not receive what it needs. And my dear, I believe the research now shows us clearly that one of the most important things the brain needs has been growing in Okinawan soil for centuries. Today, I want to share that with you. In this video, I am going to walk you through, slowly and carefully, why your brain is more vulnerable after 60 than you have been told, and the one process your doctor rarely mentions. I will show you the specific purple root vegetable that Okinawan centenarians have eaten daily for generations, and the exact compound inside it that crosses into your brain and protects it. I will explain 3 pathways through which this food supports brain health at the cellular level, so you understand why this is not a fad. I will share the studies from real institutions with real participants that convinced me this was worth talking about. And I will give you the simple morning way to prepare it, the way we do it in Okinawa, along with the common mistakes that quietly destroy its benefit before it ever reaches your brain. My friend, if you have found this channel and it speaks to you, I would be grateful if you subscribed. I am not a young person chasing attention on the internet. I'm a retired doctor who promised herself she would spend her remaining years sharing what Okinawa taught her. Every subscriber helps me keep that promise. Now, let me give you a picture of what is happening inside your brain, because without this picture, nothing I say about the food will make complete sense. Think of your brain as an ancient garden. When the garden is young and well tended, everything grows beautifully. The paths are clear, the water flows freely through every channel, the flowers bloom in order. That garden is your network of neurons, the cells that carry your thoughts, your memories, your ability to recognize the face of someone you love. But here is what happens as we grow older. The garden does not die all at once. It is not struck by a storm. Instead, very slowly, quietly, Weeds begin to grow between the stones. The irrigation channels become clogged with debris. The soil becomes dry and acidite, and the gardener, your brain's own maintenance system, becomes tired, slower, less able to keep up with the damage. That slow process has a name. Researchers call it neuroinflammation. It is chronic, low-grade inflammation inside the brain itself, and after 60, it accelerates. Here is what the research tells us. By the time most adults reach their mid-60s, 3 things are happening simultaneously inside the brain. First, your brain's primary cleanup system, a process called microglial pruning, becomes overactive in the wrong direction. The cells responsible for clearing damaged connections begin to also destroy healthy ones. It is as though the gardener, confused by all the weeds, begins pulling up flowers along with them. Second, oxidative stress accumulates in brain tissue at a rate that outpaces your body's ability to neutralize it. Free radicals, unstable molecules generated by normal metabolism, damage the fatty membranes that surround every neuron. And the brain, my dear, is the fattiest organ in your body. Nearly 60% of its dry weight is fat. That fat is what makes it so vulnerable to oxidative damage. Third, blood flow to the brain declines. The tiny capillaries that feed your neurons with oxygen and glucose become stiffer, less responsive. Some close entirely, and without adequate blood flow, even healthy neurons begin to starve. These 3 processes, neuroinflammation, oxidative damage, and reduced cerebral blood flow, are not separate problems. They feed each other. Inflammation damages blood vessels. Poor blood flow increases oxidative stress. Oxidative stress amplifies inflammation. It is a quiet, invisible cycle that, left unchecked, leads to what we experience as memory loss, brain fog, slower thinking, and eventually, in its most severe form, dementia. Now, here is where my island enters this conversation. Okinawa has been studied for decades by researchers from around the world because of its extraordinary concentration of healthy centenarians. The Okinawa Centenarian Study, one of the longest-running investigations of human aging ever conducted, has followed hundreds of Okinawans over the age of 100. And among their consistent findings, 2 stand out for our topic today. Okinawan centenarians show significantly lower rates of cognitive decline than age-matched populations in other developed nations. And the single most consumed carbohydrate source in the traditional Okinawan diet, far more than rice, is the purple sweet potato. Not the orange sweet potato you see in Western supermarkets, the Okinawan variety, called Beni Imo in Japanese, deep, vivid, almost impossibly purple from skin to center. This is not a decorative food. This is a food that, when researchers examined its biochemical composition, turned out to contain one of the highest concentrations of a specific class of brain protective compounds found anywhere in the plant kingdom. Let me walk you through what those compounds are and what they do. The primary active compounds in the Okinawan purple sweet potato are a family of pigments called anthocyanins. Anthocyanins are what give the potato its deep purple color. They belong to a broader class of plant chemicals called polyphenols, but among all polyphenols studied for brain health, anthocyanins have a characteristic that makes them exceptional. They cross the blood-brain barrier. My friend, that matters enormously. Many beneficial compounds that you consume are stopped at the brain's front door. The blood-brain barrier is an extremely selective membrane that protects your brain from toxins, but also, unfortunately, blocks many helpful molecules. Most antioxidants you eat from other foods never actually reach the neurons that need protection. Anthocyanins from purple sweet potato have been demonstrated in tracer studies to pass through this barrier and accumulate in regions of the brain associated with memory and learning, specifically the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex. Once there, they do 3 things. Pathway 1. They suppress neuroinflammation directly. Anthocyanins inhibit a signaling pathway called NFKB, the master switch that controls inflammatory gene expression throughout the body, including in the brain. When NF-κB is chronically active, which it is in most aging adults, it triggers the release of inflammatory molecules called cytokines that damage neural connections and impair the formation of new memories. Think of NF-κB as a fire alarm in your brain that has been ringing for so long that no one responds to it anymore. Meanwhile, actual fires, real damage, are spreading unchecked. Anthocyanins help quiet that alarm, not by suppressing it entirely, which would leave you vulnerable to real threats, but by restoring it to its proper sensitivity. The fires get attended to, the false alarms stop. In laboratory studies, anthocyanins from purple sweet potato reduced the production of interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha, two of the most destructive inflammatory molecules in the aging brain, by meaningful amounts. Pathway 2. They protect the fatty membranes that surround every neuron. I mentioned that your brain is predominantly fat. The membranes of your neurons are made of delicate polyunsaturated fatty acids that are exquisitely vulnerable to oxidative damage. When those membranes are damaged, the neuron cannot communicate efficiently with its neighbors. Signals become garbled, connections weaken, memory falters. Anthocyanins are among the most potent lipid-soluble antioxidants found in food. They embed themselves directly into cell membranes, the exact location where oxidative damage occurs, and neutralize free radicals before they can break the membrane apart. A study published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry measured the antioxidant capacity of purple sweet potato extract against other well-known antioxidant foods. Purple sweet potato anthocyanins demonstrated higher membrane protective activity than blueberry extract, grapeseed extract, and vitamin E, the three compounds most commonly cited in brain health literature. Pathway 3. They improve cerebral blood flow through nitric oxide support. Anthocyanins have been shown to upregulate the production of nitric oxide in endothelial cells, the cells lining your blood vessels, including the tiny capillaries that feed your brain. Nitric oxide signals those vessels to relax and widen, allowing more blood, and therefore more oxygen and glucose, to reach neural tissue. This is the pathway that connects what you eat at breakfast to how clearly you think at 3 in the afternoon. When cerebral blood flow improves, the brain receives more of everything it needs. The neurons fire more efficiently. The gardener has enough water to tend the garden properly. Research from several institutions supports this. Let me share what I found most compelling. A controlled study from the National Agriculture and Food Research Organization in Japan recruited 58 adults between the ages of 60 and 80 with early signs of cognitive decline, specifically scores in the borderline range on standardized memory assessments. Half consumed a daily beverage containing concentrated purple sweet potato anthocyanins for 12 weeks. The other half received a placebo beverage matched for taste and appearance. At the end of the study, the purple sweet potato group showed statistically significant improvements in verbal memory and learning ability compared to the placebo group. Functional brain imaging revealed increased blood flow to the hippocampus, the region most critical for memory formation and most vulnerable to age-related decline. These were not young, healthy university students. These were older adults already showing cognitive slippage, and the trajectory shifted. A separate study conducted at the University of Reading in England examined the effect of anthocyanin-rich foods on cognitive performance in adults over 50. Participants consuming anthocyanin-enriched foods daily for 12 weeks demonstrated measurable improvements in executive function and episodic memory, the ability to recall specific events and experiences, compared to controls. The researchers specifically noted that the improvements correlated with reductions in circulating markers of inflammation, supporting the neuroinflammation suppression pathway. Research from Kagoshima University in southern Japan, using the specific Okinawan purple sweet potato variety, demonstrated that anthocyanin extracts from this cultivar reduced markers of oxidative stress in brain tissue by a significant margin in animal models of aging, and that this correlated with preserved performance on spatial memory tasks even at advanced age. And a study from Tufts University in the United States, examining dietary anthocyanin intake across a cohort of over 2,800 older adults, found that those in the highest quintile of anthocyanin consumption showed a measurably slower rate of cognitive decline over a 6-year follow-up period compared to those in the lowest quintile. The researchers described the effect as equivalent to approximately 2.5 years of delayed cognitive aging. My dear, I want you to hear that number again. 2.5 years from food. Not medication, not surgery, food that costs almost nothing and that you can prepare in your own kitchen tomorrow morning. Now, let me tell you exactly how we eat this in Okinawa, because preparation matters, and several common mistakes can quietly reduce the benefit before it reaches your brain. The traditional Okinawan preparation is remarkably simple. Step 1. Choose the right potato. Look for Japanese purple sweet potato, sometimes labeled murasaki or Beni Imo in Asian grocery stores. The flesh should be deep purple throughout, not white with purple skin, and not the orange variety. If you cannot find the Japanese variety, the Korean purple sweet potato or the American variety labeled Stokes purple are the closest substitutes. The critical factor is that the flesh is deeply pigmented. The deeper the purple, the higher the anthocyanin content. Step 2. Steam. Do not boil. In Okinawa, we steam our sweet potatoes. This matters. Boiling leaches water-soluble anthocyanins into the cooking water, and unless you are drinking that water, you are pouring a significant portion of the benefit down the drain. Steaming preserves the majority of the anthocyanin content. Research comparing preparation methods found that steaming retains up to 80% of anthocyanin content, while boiling reduces it by 40 to 50%. Place 1 medium potato, roughly 150 grams, in a steamer basket over simmering water. Cover. Steam for 25 to 30 minutes until soft. Step 3. Eat it in the morning with your breakfast. In Okinawa, steamed purple sweet potato is a breakfast food. Many of my older patients ate it as their primary morning carbohydrate, instead of bread, instead of rice, instead of cereal. They would peel it warm, sometimes mash it with a little warm water, and eat it alongside miso soup and pickled vegetables. The morning timing aligns with your body's natural cortisol rhythm, which governs nutrient absorption efficiency and cerebral blood flow regulation. Your brain is most receptive to these compounds in the first hours after waking. Step 4. Add a squeeze of citrus. A small amount of lemon, lime, or the Okinawan shikwasa citrus, added to the mashed potato or consumed alongside it, serves an important function. The vitamin C in citrus creates an acidic environment in your stomach that stabilizes anthocyanins during digestion and significantly increases their absorption into the bloodstream. Without the acid, a larger proportion of anthocyanins are degraded by your digestive enzymes before they ever reach your blood. This is not a flavor choice. It is a practical decision with measurable impact. Step 5. Pair it with green tea. This is the traditional Okinawan combination: steamed purple sweet potato with a cup of green tea. The EGCG in green tea has its own documented neuroprotective effects and appears to work through complementary pathways. Together, the anthocyanins from the potato and the catechins from the tea provide broader coverage of the 3 brain aging mechanisms I described. Prepare your green tea at 175 degrees Fahrenheit, not boiling. Boiling water degrades the active catechin compounds. No dairy milk. The proteins in dairy bind to both catechins and anthocyanins and reduce their absorption significantly. A squeeze of lemon in your tea, as with the potato, enhances absorption. Now, my friend, let me tell you about the mistakes I have seen, not from research papers, from 40 years of watching my own patients, and now from the messages I receive from around the world. Mistake 1. Using the wrong variety. An orange sweet potato is a wonderful food. It is rich in beta-carotene. It is nutritious, but it contains almost no anthocyanins. The brain protective effects I described today are specific to the anthocyanin compounds found in the purple-fleshed varieties. If you eat an orange sweet potato every morning, expecting cognitive benefits from anthocyanins, you will be disappointed. The color is the signal. It must be deeply purple inside. Mistake 2. Boiling the potato and discarding the water. I have said this, but it bears repeating because it is the most common preparation error. Boiling can remove nearly half the active compounds. If you must boil rather than steam, use the cooking water. Make it into a soup or drink it as a warm broth. But steaming is always the first choice. It is how we have always done it in Okinawa. Mistake 3. Adding large amounts of sugar, butter, or cream. In Western cooking, sweet potatoes are often prepared as a dessert, mashed with brown sugar, topped with marshmallows, loaded with butter. Every one of these additions works against the purpose. Sugar triggers an insulin spike that temporarily reduces cerebral blood flow. The saturated fat in butter and cream competes with the anthocyanins for absorption in the gut. The traditional Okinawan preparation is simple. Steamed, perhaps with a pinch of sea salt and a squeeze of citrus. Let the natural sweetness of the potato be enough. It is sweeter than you expect. Mistake 4. Expecting results in 1 week. My dear, the brain does not rebuild in 7 days. The neuroinflammatory processes I described develop over years and decades. The studies showing meaningful cognitive improvement ran for 12 weeks at minimum. The Okinawan centenarians did not eat this potato once and receive protection for life. They ate it nearly every day for decades. Consistency is the mechanism. If you try this for 1 week and feel nothing different and stop, you have not given your brain the time it needs. Commit to 8 weeks. Then assess. Track whether you feel sharper in the afternoons, whether you recall names more easily, whether the mental fog that has settled over recent years begins, even slightly, to lift. Mistake 5. Replacing the whole food with a supplement. Anthocyanin capsules exist. Purple sweet potato extract tablets are sold online. But research comparing whole food sources to isolated anthocyanin supplements consistently shows that the whole food delivers a broader range of protective compounds, fiber, vitamins, minerals, and dozens of other polyphenols that appear to work together. The whole food also delivers its anthocyanins within a matrix that slows their release and improves absorption throughout the digestive tract. A capsule delivers a single compound in a single burst. The potato delivers an orchestra. Please, my friend, eat the food. Let me share something personal with you. When I retired from my clinic in Okinawa, my oldest living patient was a woman of 104. She had been coming to see me since she was 66. For 38 years, I watched her. She never took a memory medication. She never had a brain scan. She walked to my clinic 3 kilometers each way until she was 97, and every single morning of her adult life, she ate steamed Beni Imo with miso soup and green tea. At 104, she knew my name. She knew the names of my children. She asked me about my garden. She remembered a conversation we had had 3 visits earlier. I am not telling you this to prove anything. 1 patient is not a clinical study, but she was not alone. I watched this pattern repeat across hundreds of patients over decades. The ones who kept the old diet, the purple sweet potato, the miso, the green tea, the seaweed, the fish, their minds held, not perfectly, not forever, but longer and more gracefully than anyone eating the modern diet had any right to expect. That observation is what started me on this path. The research confirmed what I had already seen with my own eyes. Let me bring everything together clearly. After 60, 3 processes accelerate brain aging: neuroinflammation, oxidative membrane damage, and declining cerebral blood flow. These 3 processes feed each other in a cycle that, unchecked, leads to progressive cognitive decline. The Okinawan purple sweet potato contains one of the highest natural concentrations of anthocyanins, a class of polyphenols that cross the blood-brain barrier and act directly on all 3 processes. They suppress the NF-κB inflammatory pathway, protecting neural connections. They embed in neuronal membranes and neutralize the oxidative damage that destroys communication between brain cells. And they support nitric oxide production, improving blood flow to the brain regions most critical for memory and learning. Clinical research from institutions in Japan, England, and the United States has documented measurable improvements in memory, learning, and executive function in older adults consuming anthocyanin-rich foods over 12-week periods. One long-term study associated high anthocyanin intake with approximately 2.5 years of delayed cognitive aging. The morning protocol: 1 medium steamed purple sweet potato, approximately 150 grams, with a squeeze of citrus, paired with green tea brewed at 175 degrees Fahrenheit with lemon. No dairy, no added sugar. Every morning. The critical rules: steam, do not boil. Choose deeply purple flesh. Add citrus for absorption. Avoid sugar and dairy additions. Give it 8 weeks minimum before you evaluate. And eat the whole food, not a supplement. My dear friend, I want you to know something that I believe with my whole heart. After 38 years of watching people grow old on an island where growing old is done differently than anywhere else on Earth, your brain is not a machine with a fixed expiration date. It is a living garden, and gardens respond to care. They respond to nourishment. They respond to the quiet, patient, consistent attention of someone who shows up every morning and does the simple things that matter. You cannot control your age. You cannot change your family history, but you can change what you put on your plate tomorrow morning. And that, my friend, changes more than you have been told. If this was helpful to you, I have a small request. Please share this with someone you love who is worried about their memory. A parent, a spouse, a friend who has been told that decline is simply what happens, because I do not believe that story. And after 38 years, the research does not believe it either. I also gently remind you, as I always do, please speak with your own doctor before making significant changes to your diet, especially if you are managing diabetes or take blood sugar medications, as purple sweet potato does affect glucose levels. Subscribe if you would like to hear more from me. I have much more to share about how the people of Okinawa live long and live well. I will see you in the next one. With warmth, Dr. Haruko.